Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Selectmen's meeting for December 15, 2020. Tonight's meeting did start earlier for an executive session at 6:30. The board, in the end, took no action, so there's nothing to report on that matter. And now begin the open session of our meeting. And we'll start with a salute to the flag and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So tonight at 7 o'clock we have a continued public hearing with National Grid. 7:15 we'll meet with the town's new library director for an introduction, and we'll start with a couple of matters of business before we get to that, since we have a few moments. I think I'm going to go out of order and go to unfinished business, the Block Fund Awards. As it turns out, we had a couple last minute found applications. We added them to the list, and based on my calculator, Mr. Hajar, we awarded all of these requests. There is a $50 balance. So rather than prolonging this any longer, I think they're all good applicants, and I would suggest to the board that we award the applications as they've been submitted, but add that additional $50 to the request from the Ecumenical Food Pantry of Norwood, so that their total is $1,550. Can I have a motion to that effect, or,
It's up to you, Mr.
or any additional motion?
It's up to you.
Okay. So that will be the award. Our office, as soon as possible, will post these online for all interested. Can go online and see the awards that were made. And all those who applied, your Christmas wishes have come true, and all your awards have been granted. All right, thank you. So,
congratulations to them all. They were really good submissions, well worthy, some really well thought out ones as well. So I'm glad, fortunately for this year, that we're able to fund 100%. So it's good. So congratulations to everyone who submitted.
Mr. Chair?
yes.
So, some of the townspeople might not know that that award was originally granted by Ernie Block Sr., and was at the 125th anniversary
Yes.
celebration. He told Mr. Carroll that he would make that award every year. So thank you to the Block family for their continued support of the organizations of the town of Norwood. This is an excellent way that we have a chance to help out organizations right here in our own town.
Yeah, just to add to that, that original award, Ernie Bach Jr., when his senior passed away, changed the Bach fund to both his grandfather and his father, and increased the amount he donates to the town. So that was very nice of them. All right, so we have a memorandum of understanding for Facilities Department, a request from Maya Bodhopper of the school committee for appointment of 2 members to meet with them to go over a couple of matters, change a couple of items, or consider changing a couple of items in the original agreements, and ask the chair to appoint 2 members. So I'm going to ask Mr. Lane and Mr. Maloney if you please meet with them and the general manager and go over those matters of concern.
Sure.
With that, how close are we? Still have 5 minutes. Next item, we have Michael Roberts, Senior Vice President Development from Avalon Bay Communities. You might remember that we received the request from Avalon Bay for the selectmen to consider working with them to change their program from its current status to a LIP program, which in common terms is usually referred to as a friendly 40B. It's a little confusing to some people perhaps to follow, because the development's already there. It already is a 40B, so what are we talking about? This is their request to be able to change their form of financing. Nothing with the development would change whatsoever. The building's there. It wouldn't change with the HCD as far as counting towards our 40B in the number of units and/or the land count. Everything changed the same except for they become eligible to be self-financed. And that, of course, is of financial advantage to them, and that's why they seek our support. We did have a little hesitancy on the amount they were offering the town at the time for participation in this activity. With those discussions, they have changed their offer to the town up to $247,000. Mr. Mizuko, Town Council at Garris North, Mr. Maloney and myself were in discussions, and we felt that we'd come back to a fair number, a reasonable number, and that what's involved is of no harm to the town and advantage to us to receive the additional grants. So we're recommending that the board respond to Avalon, that we're willing to proceed with them towards a WIP program and basically accept their letter and start the technical process necessary to get them to DHCD and approval of their project being changed from its current status to a WIP status. Mrs. Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will go along with this because it's just a matter of financing for that company, but for the record, that I don't think that Avalon Bay has done such a great job as I thought they would. You know, and I think that, I hope that things stay well there, you know?
Okay. Anything else, or yes, Mr. Lane?
Mr. Chairman, did you mention how the contribution will be used?
I'm sorry?
The contribution?
Oh, their letter has suggested that it be offering $247,000 for a school capital project as determined by the Selectmen. So some capital items, we have quite a list. Mr. Maloney on the Capital Outlay Committee can tell us, including school projects, and once this comes through and we get the funds, then this board will decide which project or projects the funds should go towards.
Great.
Mr. Maloney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So do we have on hand projects, maybe Mr. Mizuko can answer this, that would soak up the 247.5 things that we were planning to do anyway?
We do. In particular, there's a school IT project over the next 2 years that's to replace smart boards in the elementary schools. We've done that at the high school. The next phase of that project occurs over 2 years. That would come in at around $180,000 to $200,000, and then we'd request that the remainder be used to purchase additional replacement special ed vans. We know that that fleet is in a lot of need of replacement, and it would help us accelerate the replacement of that fleet.
Why, I'm sorry, the smart boards need to be replaced? They're only about 5 years old. How long do smart boards last?
The elementary school level. We just replaced boards at the high school. So it's a similar visual IT project.
How long ago did we do smart boards at the elementary schools, David? I would say 5 years.
Didn't
but
seem like 5 years.
maybe that's how long they last. I don't know.
I mean, easy to look up, I guess.
Okay, I won't make a big deal out of it. I thought there was a security thing too that Mr. Riccardi talked about.
Yeah, well, that was already financed at this town meeting.
Okay, right, all right, okay, all right.
So that was an original thought, but
Yeah.
that project already has moved forward.
It
So
is
we'll-
underway.
So we use those,
okay.
we'll determine some other project for those funds.
Great.
Okay, all right.
So is a motion to respond in affirmative to Avalon Bay?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? The hour has arrived at 7 o'clock. We have a continued public hearing with Mary Mulroney from permit representative from National Grid. They've submitted an application for a location to install gas piping at the intersection of Central Street and Railroad Ave. You're with us this evening.
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Good evening. Please state your name, position, and purpose, please.
My name is Mary Mulroney. I'm here on behalf of National Grid. I'm a permit representative, and National Grid's requesting respectfully approval to install and maintain approximately 115 feet of 4-inch low-pressure plastic main from the existing 6-inch low-pressure bare steel main from the intersection of Central Street and Railroad Ave in Norwood to building number 244 Central Street, installing approximately 90 feet of 4-inch low-pressure plastic service to serve the commercial space at 244 Central Street in Norwood, extending off the proposed 4-inch low-pressure gas main extension.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have attached to our information a letter from memoranda from Mr. Ryan, Director of Public Works and Town Engineer. Mr. Ryan, I see you're with us. Would you want to explain that, and have you discussed that with National Grid yet?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have not talked to National Grid about this. Typically, a grantor location, the Board of Selectmen look for my recommendations on how this should proceed. I recommend approving this with the condition in the entire Central Street right away from Railroad Ave to the fence line at Old Parish shall be milled and paved with 1.5 inches of bituminous concrete. Probably not too many people understand that Central Street actually extends from Railroad Ave to the entrance of Old Parish. So as a condition of approval, I would recommend the milling and paving of the entire width of the right-of-way through there, which is a little bit over 30 feet wide.
Okay. Any questions, comments, members of the board? Mrs. Donahue?
Thank you. Does it end at the opening of Old Parish?
Yes, it does.
And could you tell me why, did she say that they were going from 6-inch steel to 4-inch plastic?
Yes.
So in that case, it's unusual to go from larger to smaller, isn't it?
This is just, yes, it is. This is just feeding the building. It's just feeding one building. It must have opened at the rear of like 169, 157, and 151. So they put the addresses 244 Central Street.
So this is almost a corrective measure. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? It is a public hearing. Is there anyone in attendance to be heard on this matter? Seeing none, what's the wish of the board?
Move to close the hearing?
Second?
Made and seconded. Anything further? Any
Is-
motions, Mr. Jar?
I was just going to say, is National Grid in agreement with the request, along with disapproval, to pave with 1.5 inch bituminous concrete?
I can't agree to that, but when you speak with our engineers, once the grant's approved, we still have to apply for a permit, and that's when the details will be ironed out of the milling and the paving and everything.
Well, it'll be worked out now if it's a condition of the
Yeah, so
That's right.
approval.
I'll move that we approve with the condition that that our Director of Engineering is provided to pave the entire width and length down to Old Parish Cemetery.
Second.
So in accordance with Mr. Ryan's recommendation dated November 17, 2020.
Yes.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I
I'm sorry?
just want to say that I can't agree to that. I can't agree and promise you that, but I'm sure when Mr. Ryan speaks with the supervisors and the engineers, he can explain what he wants before a permit's issued.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
our vote is with that condition, so we'll proceed from there.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, so,
Mr. Chairman?
yes,
Mark.
Mr. Ryan.
We have John Barkis from National Grid here to discuss a late minute agenda item for 615 Washington Street, Heritage Baptist Church. I was hoping you could, while he's here, take that up.
Yes, yeah, we have a few minutes, so we can do that, Mr. Ryan. You want to lead that discussion further?
Yes, please. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so the 615 Washington Street, the Heritage Baptist Church, is across from the Norwood Town Common, and many of us remember it as the Apollo Cafe. And the June 28th storm completely wiped out the basement of that facility and required, after consultation with the fire department, National Grid disconnected the gas service to that property. Since that time, work has gone on at the church, and they're looking to get back into service. They're renting space in Foxborough right now, but they would love to return to Norwood. The unfortunate thing is there's a high-pressure gas main in Washington Street, and while it once was connected to that, since it's been disconnected because of that emergency, according to National Grid policy and Department of Public Utility regulations, that changes the whole scenario there and how it's connected. If it was a conventional building, Mr. Chairman, with a foundation right at the back of sidewalk, you could install a gas service, put the meter in, and then just vent it quickly outside. Unfortunately, this building, the first 20 to 23 feet is actually a slab. And DPU regulations and National Grid policy do not allow a high-pressure pipe to go under a slab. And this is for safety reasons. So the proposal that we're looking for tonight, get guidance from the selectmen, is they would install the service. There'll be a meter now on the front of the building with 2 bollards, and then that would regulate the gas, the high-pressure gas, down to a operating pressure for the building, and then the gas service going into the building would service at the right pressure for the whole building. So I thought, because this gas meter would be on town property, the back of sidewalk, it warranted that the selectmen get involved to get the approval to do this. Really is no other way around this, Mr. Chairman. There's no other option off the Cottage Street through our newly paved parking area at Talbot, or the right-of-way next to what I refer to Allegheri's barber shop, because that's private property. So the best case is to install this meter with bollards, blend it in with the building. There's plenty of room to get by for pedestrians and sidewalk plows. There's well over 8 feet. So it's not a safety hazard there, but this is something that's critical to getting that building back in service so the church can operate, and with winter approaching, heating is essential.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ryan. Looking at the photo that you gave us and the location and the proposed bollards, they appear to be to either side of where the meter would be hanging on the building. We concerned about anything in the front, coming from the front towards that meter?
So as far as I know, this will extend 14 inches out from the building. About 18 inches high as far as the meter. The bollards will be a little higher, just so you can identify it if you're on a sidewalk plow or you're a pedestrian walking along. So that's the extent of it. Some people might find it aesthetically not appealing. I think if we decide to approve this, have the church work towards, painting it the same as the stucco they have there, and I'm sure they would do that in a heartbeat. But I'm not concerned from our perspective, from operations or pedestrians walking along there, any issues, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any further questions, Mrs. Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very important matter, and would be happy to help the church. However, our duty is to protect all the citizens of the town of Norwood, And gas is an exceptionally dangerous entity, and control of it you have to be very, very careful. So I would like to know from town council how town council feels about this in regard to future liability for residents of the town of Norwood or employees of the town of Norwood. I'd be afraid to vote on this unless we had some kind of a legal opinion about our liability in this matter.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Jar?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, in reading through your letter, I just want to make sure I understand it. It's the actual piping of the high-pressure line that can't go under a slab. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, so when you penetrate that wall, you're already under the slab? And that's
Yes.
what? Okay. So what's above the slab on that level? Is that an open area inside the church? Is it, what's there above the slab?
It's usable area, it's living space, as we would say.
So there is no way to come up and to go across some way to then go down to get to the heating units as required?
So, this is John Marcus. I don't know if you want me to
Yes,
comment on.
yes, if you could help us, please do.
Comments.
Yep.
Sure, absolutely. So again, John Marcus, thank you again for hearing us on such short notice. So, on one comment about the safety and reliability of all the residents and the public safety, the safest place for this service right now if it's to be returned back for this building, would actually be this location on the sidewalk. It is definitely the safest place. You do not want an intermediate or high pressure to run into any building or home or full structure. The regulator would be outside, which would then put the pressure down to a water column. And then once it's on the water column, it would then go inside to the building as a distribution pressure. So that's the safest way to have it. Once you get into the building, it's going to be almost very similar to, say, plumbing, except it's going to be gas plumbing. So a licensed plumber will come in and they will do the plumbing work, and it'll be inspected by a town inspector, and all regulations will be met. It'll be up to code. It'll be the safest possible way for this building to actually have gas into to service the building. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but it actually is up to code, safest, most responsible and reasonable way to get gas into this building.
Okay. Mrs. Donahue?
We have looked at other options on going maybe to if you're looking at the building on the right-hand side, that's where the forced sprinkler system runs in. You have the windows that are also there. To go around the building and to be able to run a service, you would have to, it would cost multi-thousands of dollars for the church to run a new service down through an easement, through a private way, through the parking lot, the general public parking lot. It would really be significantly expensive and time consuming on top of that. And then the same situation, the way that it would enter the building would be the same situation as it's entering to the front.
Mrs. Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What happens if a snowplow or an automobile or a truck or a fire truck hits it?
Yep, that's why the bollards would be in place. So the bollards are actually in place so that snow plows, sidewalk plows, cars, vehicles are not apt to hit it. We use these bollards in parking lots, storefronts, public parking spaces, wherever there could possibly be a chance of something, as you mentioned, disrupting the gas meter. So the chances of that happening, it's, there's always a chance for anything to happen.
What extent of pressure do the bollards provide?
The bollards are actually 4 feet into the ground and then come up approximately, I think it's 36 inches above ground. So that they'll stop the cars from actually damaging the meter, the riser, and the regulator.
Thank you.
They're actually steel, or round steel that goes into the ground that is filled with concrete.
Mr. Mizuko, you have something to add?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could just give the board a little bit of background, and for those listening at home, this is the requirement here is a result of a code change, but the work that was originally done that triggered this was during the June 28th storm. The Baptist Church suffered about $300,000 worth of damage. Unfortunately, like most people during the storm, they were only able to get about $10,000 from their insurance company. So the building suffered a lot of damage. The gas had to be shut off due to the amount of water that flew from the lot into the building. That is what has since triggered this request to get it up and running. The building is still not functional, so the church has not been able to meet in that building since late June. As Mr. Ryan mentioned, they're paying a mortgage on the building they own. They're paying rental space somewhere else. And with winter coming, the building has still not been winterized. So while this wouldn't be my first choice if I could magically draw it a different way, this is really the only realistic way to get the church back up and running in a reasonably cost-effective manner. Otherwise, they'd be looking to be out well through the winter. I don't like the idea of down the road there being tons of bollards and gas meters in the front of downtown. I just think we're unfortunately stuck between a rock and a hard place between what the code requires and what's reasonable for a building that's suffered a lot of damage through no fault of their own.
Mr. Joe?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I don't want to burden the Baptist Church as well, but I am concerned about a couple of things that you did indicate. So, if I understand, so the equipment got damaged because of the flood and has to be replaced, but it can't use the existing service run into the building?
That's my next question, yeah.
So the existing service was cut off in the street. Again, that's regulations that we have to, once we cut off a service that goes into a building, it has to be cut off at the gas main. We can't leave a live stub in the ground. So after that was done, we were notified that they, just recently we were notified that they're looking for gas service. We went back there to look at it, and we cannot use the existing line due to regulations through the Mass DPU and our own standards at National Grid. It's against code that we could not install that service back into the building or use the existing line that's there. We would have to install a new line, and new pressure tests, new system. Unfortunately, it's just the way the regulations are. So to try to identify, and I know there's a lot of concern, I myself went out there, I looked at it, I took some pictures. The day before that, we had, fitters, meter fitters out there, we had supervisors out there, we had compliance out there. We tried to find a way to make this work for the church. And this was the only way to do it. So we're prepared to, if we are granted the permission to put it in the sidewalk, to do a slim line, the slimmest line we can possibly do for the riser in the meter. Normally, it's an industrial meter and it bumps out, 16 to 20 inches. Right now, we've slimmed it up the best we could. We did like a test fit in shop to make sure that we could make sure that it's going to be as slim as possible, so we're prepared to be able to do that. The other buildings that have situations like this, that have the intermediate pressure gas line going into the building, going forward, if we find this out, that somebody has this, we have to replace it. We have to do a new service and a new upgrade. But what we can normally do on these buildings with these storefronts is, one, they're either fed from the back, or if they are fed from the front, they have your traditional foundation, your 12 to 18 inch foundation, and we can go through that because it's not a full insert through 20 to 23 feet of the slab concrete. It's only a quick little sleeve that we need to do. And then we can go straight up and we can pop a vent coming back out. So then we can regulate the pressure. So God forbid there ever was a leak or a break, it's going to pressurize outside of the building through the ventilator. So some of the storefronts already have that. You don't notice them. You know, it's like anything else. You put a brand new bush in front of your house, you notice it right away. This is something that you're going to notice right away. Absolutely. But after time, it'll be painted to the color of the building. And then they could build a small structure that has vents on the side. It looks similar to like a large mailbox type of thing. That's how I vision it. But the other storefronts have that traditional 12 to 18 inch foundation. And we can go in, come up, and put the vent right back out. This system here, we can't do that. We can't go through that slab. Slabs would require you to have a vent on both sides. So now we would have a vent out on the sidewalk, and we would also have to have a vent in the building, and then we would have to pipe it up straight through, and that's approximately ends up being, because the higher you go, the larger volume pipe you need, would end up being, by the time we got to the roof, we would end up being with a 6-inch vent through the building, and we'd probably have a 4-inch vent outside the building due to the length and size. So we have looked at all options. This is really the only option the church has today.
Mr. John.
And there's no way to create a niche at that location so that the meter actually is set back a little bit rather than sticking out?
No, the structure of the building could affect the integrity of the building. So at this point, that has not been resolved to be able to do that. We did look, again, on the far right side, if you're looking at it, there's kind of like a niche before you get to the other building. But again, you have the forced sprinkler system that the fire department would use if there was ever a fire in the building. They hook right up to it. It would be an obstruction for the fire department in that location. So,
Well, I wasn't looking for it to be moved, John. I was looking for it to create a niche at that location or close enough so that it's not structurally impacting the building, yet it allows it to be recessed so that it's not sticking out into the sidewalk area or in front of the building. But if it hasn't been looked...
From my understanding, it would impact, if they tried to dig a niche into the building, like where the windows are, it could cause structure damage to the foundation. You know, of the weight, the carry beams or something like that was said, because they have windows that go down to, and then if you put a niche into the stucco, into the concrete, it could cause structural damage.
Okay, Mrs. Donahue.
Sure, what is the size of the existing pipe there now, in the existing old service? The size that was disconnected from the street?
Yep, so again, forgive me, I didn't write it down when I was out there, but I believe it was 1 1/4 inches. So right now, we're gonna be putting a 1-inch line back in. 1 inch would carry the load that is required to run the equipment in the building.
So since it was, the new line would be a little bit smaller, what are the reasons why you just can't replace it?
We would love to just replace it. You can't have intermediate pressure inside a resident or a building. It's against code. It's a safety reason. If we ran that line back in, the liability, if there was ever a gas leak in the building and not being able to vent out correctly, could be, you know, disastrous. So we're just, due to code, we're not allowed to do it.
Thank you.
Once it's brought to National Grid's attention, we need to replace it and we need to bring it up to code.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Maloney.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think between Mr. Ryan and Mr. Barkus, the questions have been answered to at least to my satisfaction. The church needs this done. It's the only way to get them up and running again, unless you want to make them spend $300,000. I make a motion that we approve the request.
Second. Made and seconded. Anything further on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
4 to 1, motion's passed. Thank you, gentlemen, for your information and time, and good luck with the project.
Thank you. And
All
thank
right.
you. Enjoy your holidays.
You also, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great holiday.
Good evening. So, we're a little late now for our introduction, sorry for keeping you waiting. Mr. Mizuko, would you like to do the introductions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and for those of you watching at home, we have with us Clayton Cheever, who is going to be the new director of the Morrill Memorial Library, starting probably sometime in February. He was the unanimous selection of the library trustees, and, we may have lost the connection there. But for anyone still watching, we have him here for just a quick introduction to the board. He comes to us from Quincy, where he's currently the assistant library director.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you,
Here,
sir?
there he is.
He's still with us.
All right, Clayton, go right ahead and introduce yourself.
Pleasure to meet you, and I'm sure your start at the library will be smoother than it was here this evening. Would you like to give us a little background on yourself, please? Appreciate
Sure,
it.
I'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Ms. Chairman and members of the board. It's an honor to be introduced to you this evening. I've been in Quincy as the assistant director for about 7.5 years, and I'm very proud of what we've been able to do in that time there. Before being in Quincy, I was a member of the management team for the Boston Public Library. I've been in libraries for some time. I've run IT before. I've been a teen librarian. I was responsible for digital literacy across the city of Boston. I was the Metro Boston Library Network administrator, all prior to coming to Quincy. And it's really an honor to be proposed to become the new director of the Morrill Memorial Library in Norwood. I'm really excited about the community. There's a great staff at the library, and I'm really looking forward to leading the team and to working with you in a great community. So thank you for having me tonight, and it's just an honor to be here.
Well, welcome again. And I'll ask the board members if they might have any other questions. Mrs. Donahue.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Cheever. It's an honor to have you here. You have an extensive background, and I'm very happy that you're with us. When you were at Quincy, was Miss Grandstrom still working there?
That is not a name I remember, so I think that was before I started.
So her sister used to be a school teacher here at Norwood Junior High School.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, her other sister. But the Norwood Library provides a very, very wonderful environment here in the town. And Mrs. Kennelly carried on beautifully during all of these heartaches that we've had with the library being shut and all kinds of things like that. But I'm sure you'll make a wonderful go of it. Thank you for coming.
I'm certain there's large shoes to fill. She's done wonderful work.
She has.
So it's been wonderful getting to know her in this process as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Jha.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Clayton, and congratulations. And looking over your resume, you worked yourself from the bottom all the way to the top. So I commend you for staying with it for that long. And what made you leave such a large city, Quincy, where you had multiple libraries, to come to Norwood and say, I'm going to focus basically on one library with such a great town?
Well, I had thought for a long time that I wanted to be a director, and I didn't want to be the director of a tiny little library. I really like working in vibrant communities, which Quincy is, and which Norwood, I believe, is as well. You're right, Norwood is not as large as Quincy, but is a very vibrant place. It is changing. There's some great traditions and some wonderful new people as well, and I think it's just a moment in time in Norwood that makes it especially exciting to be there. I've known many of the staff at the Morrill Memorial Library, actually. The head of IT, Brian, used to actually work for us in Quincy, and we were very sad to see him go, so I'm looking forward to be reunited with him. I actually have a plaque on my wall from an award that Brian and I won. It was a national award that we won for some work together, so I'm looking forward to that. I've known Lydia for quite some time, Liz, Kate, Nancy. There's a whole number of people that I've known professionally, and I just could not be more pleased to join them. And to realize my aspirations of becoming a director.
Thank you, and I really wish you well in coming to Norwood. You join a long list of excellent department heads in the town of Norwood, some of the best in the state as far as I'm concerned, so I'm sure you'll fit in nicely from what I have read and heard and seen, so thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Maloney.
Welcome, Mr. Cheever. And I think your initial impressions of Norwood will prove out. Where did you, for the sake of the public, you have an MLS? Is that your terminal degree or something greater?
I do have a master's in library and information science. That is my most recent degree, correct?
From where?
From Simmons College.
Wonderful.
Now Simmons University.
Yeah, they're known for that. That's terrific. Listen, got to let you know now, we are preparing our celebration of the town's sesquicentennial, Norwood 150. Liz Reed is an instrumental member of our steering committee. We do expect the library to be fully on board with the celebration. Hosting, for
Absolutely.
example, Mrs. Donahue is on the committee as well. And we know we're looking for a series of lectures, perhaps, on town history and some other Norwood-related matters. And we know you're going to cooperate fully. We're going to have a great time, and we're looking forward to working with you on that.
I look forward to it as well. I'm looking forward to getting to know all the folks who are dedicated to local history in Norwood. I've had a great time and a great relationship with the Quincy Historical Society. So there's a lot for me to learn, and I'm really looking forward to it.
You're saying all the right things, brother. Good luck. Thank you.
Mr. Lane?
Thank you. Mr. Cheever, just very quickly, congratulations. We're really excited to have you. The library, as Ms. Donahue said, is one of our greatest resources in this town, and having young kids, we utilize it fully, and I'm really excited for you to get to work. And the one question you probably get a lot is, do you have a book recommendation? What are you reading?
So I read very promiscuously, and so what I like to read is not necessarily what's best for anyone else. I always like to ask you kind of
All right.
and say, what are you interested in? Let me help you find something that's
There you go.
go.
Good answer.
I want to read what he's reading.
Good luck.
Thank you. And we should talk books at some point. I would love to have to extend that conversation.
Yeah, excellent. Great.
So when are you joining us officially? When do you start?
So I'm still waiting. We're still working on the paperwork, so that the ink's not dry in the contract. So
Okay.
We're looking at February 8th as the date that Mr. Mizuko and I have talked about, but we're still finalizing that detail.
Very well, thank you. Any other points? You would like to add anything, Mr. Mizuko?
No, thank you. Just welcome aboard, and we're happy to have Clayton.
Okay, thank you. Have great holidays, and we'll be looking forward to working with you.
Likewise, happy holidays. It's great to meet all of you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care, Clayton.
All right, so I think we left off on the new business number 3, Mr. Mizuko. You have water and sewer electric rates and cable liens for fiscal year 2021.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you indicated, and the board has in their packet, our annual liens for water, sewer, electric, and cable for the fiscal year. We're requesting the board vote approve collection of these so we can forward to the treasurer's office. Now that the tax rate has been set, we can add them to our collections.
So moved. Second.
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Hajar.
Chairman. Tony, how long do, Mr. Manager, do the bills go unpaid until they go into collection status?
It's usually, I believe, 3 years.
Oh,
It's actually different across water, sewer, and cable. And then there's a difference, so electric is different from water and sewer, and water and sewer always goes with the home, electric goes with the tenant. So you could have a case where an electric account is uncollectible for a period of time, and it's with the renter versus the property owner, so.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I heard a motion to approve, and there was a second. And one question, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Edmund Mulvihill Jr., Director of Veteran Services, requesting to install a Vietnam War Memorial Bench at the James Sansone Memorial at the corner of East Hoyle and Washington Streets. You have his letter. Sounds like a wonderful idea. They're proposing it to be paid for with private funds as well. Any comments?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you very much. We took care of the next item with Mr. Ryan on the Heritage Baptist Church matter. John Jacobs, Napatandi's, 46 Day Street, submitting requests for a change of hours to allow for an opening at 10 a.m. on Sundays for Master in the Laws, Chapter 138, Section 33B, which was adopted by town meeting in December of 2010. No public hearing required on this. Any questions from the board? Any motions from the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Cemetery deeds for approval?
Motion to sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Block awards, we already did. Matthew Walsh, Building Commissioner, submitted reports for the month of November for our information.
Commissioner Fowle.
Just-
All in favor?
Just a question,
Opposed?
not a question, a comment.
Yes,
So,
certainly, sorry.
my usual monthly geeky self, keeping track of all the permits. I think Tony mentioned it at the Finance Commission meeting, I think last night, but just for everybody else, so far this year, as tough it has been, we are really rolling along. Out of the first 5 months of the year, 4 of them have had record months with regards to the number of permits. Dollar-wise, in the 6 years of tracking, we're at number 2. So we're doing really well. And I know this came up during discussions with S&P, as well as our financial advisors last night at the Finance Commission meeting. They talked about the vibrancy in permits and stuff, so we're doing well. Not going, let's hope it stays that way, but we are really doing good, and I don't want to give us any bad luck, but as we go into the new year, let's hope that remains constant.
Considering that this has been a bad year in so many ways for so many people, it's a highlight.
Absolutely.
Mr. Maloney? No? All set?
Right,
Anything
and
else?
actually, one
Mr.
of the
Lane?
larger permits was a Moderna permit.
Yes, it was, a big number, but every year we get 1 or 2 big ones, so it's not out of line. It's just that the numbers are just really running way high.
Okay, so the motion was to accept, I think we did that. Next item is David DeLuca submitting a copy of correspondence from Attorney Dan Bailey. That's regarding the University Ave LLC matter that before the zoning board in response to a letter we had sent in to the zoning board. Their hearing is tonight on that matter, so it's information.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor? Opposed? Unanimous? That takes us to the end of the scheduled agenda. I'll just say related to that matter, just came in at 4 o'clock tonight, was a letter from town council to Dennis McKenna Esquire, who wrote us last week on behalf of MS Walker on the same subject matter. Town council had discussions with myself as to what, we forwarded to him simply for recommendation on what action, if any, the board should take in regards to that letter, because we had just received it. We haven't even really had time to read it. And today I asked him to, put that in writing, and I think he misunderstood me. What he did was respond directly to Mr. McKenna, Attorney McKenna. But basically, he simply tells them that we got their letter, we considered it, we're working on it, that in our own letter to the zoning board, we cited many points of concern, and that to his point that he made regarding the selectmen's responsibility under Article 12, Section 10 of the general bylaws, that he has recommended to us that verbally, and here's how he's doing it in this letter now, the recommendations to the board, the selectmen engage an expert assistant for design and implementation of full protection barrier system on UR property in compliance with the general bylaws, and that we were going to continue to monitor the special permit application and go on from there as matters develop. So his recommendation is that we consider hiring an expert. Was also discussed verbally between Attorney DeLuca and myself that we wait and see what the zoning board does tonight, because one of the suggestions in our letter was that they hire a peer engineer review, and if they do follow up on that suggestion, we could probably tie the two together. So I think at the moment, unless the board wants to do something else, this is just information. It just came in,
Mr. Chairman?
and we'll consider the down the road.
It's a draft letter, right? Do you need some sort of, it's for our review, right?
It's not mock draft. I think he sent it on our behalf. I think he misunderstood. No, excuse me.
The email said it was a draft.
It's a draft.
Oh, it is a draft. Excuse me.
Not marked.
I don't see it marked draft anywhere, so I didn't realize that. Okay, I apologize.
So do we need to approve its
This
transition?
this would be if we want for us to accept this recommendation.
We should probably
from
just wait and see what
council.
happens tonight first, and then take,
Yeah,
see what happens at the ZBA tonight, then take further action
that was going
if
to
we
be my
deem
suggestion.
necessary, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And I apologize. I didn't see it marked draft, and Okay, so we'll wait, see what the zoning board does, and in the future decide what, if any, further action there is for the board to take on these matters. Okay, that ends the formal agenda for this evening.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm
just the
sorry,
manager?
manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Plasko. Just a couple of quick items. Kudos to the rec department. They had a great parade yesterday. I was originally under the impression that Debbie and John Homewood were playing Santa and Mrs. Claus, but I was told it was actually the real Mrs. Claus and Santa. And I was under the impression that Travis Farley had played the Grinch, but I believe it is actually the real Grinch was here riding around in a truck. They did a ride around the community. It was a great event for everyone. Kudos to them, to Pathfinder, to Debbie and John, and to Travis and the police and fire for a great community event done in a safe way. We will likely have town facilities closed on Thursday due to the storm. With folks now having the ability to work from home, we're realizing one of the benefits of that. I say likely, we usually like to wait until about at least 18 hours out or so to make the call, but that will be likely. And I think the board certainly understands the seriousness of our COVID-19 numbers in the community, and those numbers are continuing to rise at somewhat of an alarming pace. Pretty soon, we anticipate hitting what would be sort of our April numbers, or getting as high as we were in April. So what we're anticipating is possibly some additional work from home and slowdowns at some town facilities as we just try to keep the workforce going, as our workforce is not immune from COVID, as no one is, possibly coming right after Christmas and maybe lasting for a few weeks to sort of keep as many people safe as possible past what we're anticipating to be a holiday bump, just as we saw our Thanksgiving bump in our numbers. So we're still finalizing the details of that with Health Department, but expect some changes probably right after Christmas. And again, that's referring internally to our buildings and structures, not other changes that the governor may order for the public at large. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has.
Mrs. Donahue?
Thank you. Mr. Manager, would you be kind enough to give us an update on the status of the properties at Endicott Street?
Yes, ma'am. Just this week, the owner submitted the required code compliance report that is under review by the building department, and I believe they've submitted the following up building permits for some of that code work, which is under review. So I would say that that's good progress in starting where they need to go. We're happy that we at least received the two required code reports. For buildings 25 and 26, we have not received them for any of the additional buildings yet.
So there is a chance that some of the facilities may be open for Christmas shopping?
Christmas shopping may be a little too soon. The amount of code work is extensive, but it's positive. It's a positive step in the right direction that they at least have provided us with a report and requested to pull the permits to do the safety work necessary.
Thank you so much. A lot of the people who work there and who have businesses there are small business people, and this is the crucial season, and if the work has been done, it would be super if they could be open, even if it were for a short time. Some of the entities there are charities as well, and so I think it's important that we try and help them.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just want to follow up on that, Tony, is part of the problem has been the lack of dialogue between the owner or the property management firm and the building department with regards to what's going in there. It seems as though if they don't get either the permit or special permit that they require because it gets denied either by the planning board or the zoning board, that they just do it anyways. So along with trying to get the building in code compliant, which I am glad because that's going to help everybody, including the town, they also have to understand there's got to be a better dialogue and more consistent dialogue with what's going in and out of that place, because it's for the protection of everybody, not just because he wants to put someone in there, but if it's not done the right way, they're really endangering the people that go in there, as well as the adjacent properties.
Absolutely. There was an inordinate amount of, and when I say code violations, I'm not just saying, well, the outlet's supposed to be 8 inches from the ground and it was built 5 inches from the ground. I mean, you had multiple studios built out with extension cords. I mean, you had businesses operating, auto repair businesses operating in basements. I mean, it was extensive. So how quickly they can get back up and running depends on what they tell us they're intending to actually do with the building, and then ensuring that they follow up and actually do that with the building. Opening a bookstore is different than opening an automobile repair shop, as you know. So they've received those reports, but I would agree that continued follow-up and actually being accurate about what they're requesting and what they do is critical to the property thriving.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Mizuko?
No, sir.
Any personal agendas, Mrs. Donahue?
Thank you. I wanted to say thank you to the Norwood Light Department and to the Recreation Department for the beautiful way that South Norwood looks. I think that these are the finest lights that we've had in South Norwood, on the Balch School lawn, the Horse Pool Bathhouse, and Washington Street. We really appreciate all the work that's been done to make it look so beautiful for South Norwood for the holiday season. Thank you very much. Steve Esco from the Marine Corps League Reserves last week was collecting Toys for Tots at the VFW on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm not sure whether or not that drive is over, but this has been a tough year for people financially, a very tough economic year. And this is when we really need to help children have Christmas. And you could either contact the VFW or Mr. Esco, and the Marine Corps, any Marine probably you know will know what's going on about it. And it's still not too late to try and help out and to support that very good cause. I'd also like to say to the people of Norwood, we've had a hard year, 2020, but hopefully 2021 will be better, and 2022 even better than that. So, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll just keep going the best we can. Thank you.
Mr. Duff?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, just wanted to express, first wanted to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a Happy New Year. This is our last really official meeting of the year, so we're not going to have that opportunity, even though it's the 15th, to come back and to wish you all well. 2020 has been a very unusual year. It's been a tough year. The town of Norwood has done a really good job through its leadership to survive and prosper in some ways, and dealing with adversity in many others. So I wish you all a very happy holidays and a safe one as we bring in 2021. I also want to thank all the employees of the town for doing what they've done throughout the year. Ups and downs, we always have them, but the core of any business, and I look at us as a service industry type of business, is its employees. You have to have good employees. You have to have good leaders to be able to get done what we feel are in the best interests of this town. And I think for the most part, we've done that. We certainly have great department head leaders who have pushed through what needed to get done, and I want to commend Tony for working with them. I know it's been difficult, but I really thank you for all that you have done and what the team has done. And please make sure they all understand that it's nothing personal. Business is business, but they've done a good job to move this town forward, and we're going to have a very busy 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Maloney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with my two colleagues and Mr. Mizuko. Thanks to everyone in the town. If you would express our thanks. Also, the town has performed remarkably well under the circumstances over these past 9 months. What's the song? If we make it through December, right? So we will. We'll make it through 2020. The town will do it. We're in good shape. Special thanks to the Department of Public Health, by the way. Also to Superintendent Thompson and the principals and the teachers in the Norwood school system. The school committee itself has had a tough year trying to deal with all this COVID business, but I think they've handled it in yeoman fashion. They've made the right decisions as they've gone along. And finally, happy holidays to everyone. As Tiny Tim said, God bless us all, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Lane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share the same sentiments as my colleagues. I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday, and be safe, be well. I think the next couple months are going to be hard on businesses like restaurants and things. So, just try to, if you can order takeout from your favorite restaurants, plural, and just try to hang in there. And I wish everyone well. And like Mrs. Donahue said, I think 2021 will be a better year.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said. I was going to try to come up with some wonderful words, but I think they've already been spoken for everyone. our thanks for the job that's been done for all our residents, no matter what their beliefs or backgrounds, that they have a wonderful season. This is a special season for all of us. A Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah. Kwanzaa starts day after Christmas, I believe, and it's just a special time for all of us. And yet, it's a hard time with the COVID. I know it's especially hard for some of us who are trying to stick it out with the COVID rules to try to get us by as safely as possible, and yet what it means to us emotionally with our families. I know at Thanksgiving, I was down to 6, where I usually have 21, and it was difficult. And it's going to be the same thing at Christmas. We're going down to the 6 from our usual 25, 28 on Christmas Eve, and 18 on Christmas Day. And it's going to be different, but it just needs to be done. And I hope everyone takes into consideration what they can do to try to stay in the spirit and yet be safe and keep everyone you love safe. So with that, we are going to take a couple weeks off for ourselves and our families and our staff. And we'll be back after the beginning of the year, and God bless all of you. Thank you. That, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you all.